Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. And in this video, we're gonna speak about how portfolio could very well be one of the only things that are gonna get you a job when you are a beginner. And by beginner, I mean someone who's been developing for a year or so, not someone with 6 years of personal experience. Or yeah, it's someone who has worked on personal projects or similar things for at least a year or a year and a half, 2 years maybe. So I guess from employers' perspective, one of the things that they look at, well, one of the many things that they look at is if you are ready for the job, right? If you have applied for the job, are you ready for this job? So have you dealt with complexity in past? Have you been through tough times when you're developing and you have not quit and you still manage to complete the project, right? And if you have put the time in, those are the things that employers look at when they're looking at your CV or your portfolio. Even though you may not have a job in the industry, they want to see, have you worked with something similar? If you have, then yeah, you're a real candidate, right? But at the end of the day, they want to make sure, have you dealt with complexity? Have you dealt with complex issue? Are you ready for the job? So I guess the next question is, what really is complexity in web development? There is many definitions, and the definition may vary from field to field. But yeah, just there is many definitions, and no matter who you ask, they're gonna come up with different definition. But here's my definition of complexity. Put it simply, anything that's hard to understand is complex, right? And it's very subjective, it's very relative. Anything that's hard to understand for me could be 10 times harder for you to understand, right? And it's subjective, like I said. And if that's what complexity is, then we need to find a way to find a project that's complex enough for us, right? It can't be super complicated. It has to be something that matches what you want to do, right? So let's have a look at this example just to make the definition a bit more clear. Let's say you have a pencil and you have a piece of paper, and someone comes to you and asks you, can you just write down on a piece of paper how an airplane works? Just title how an airplane works and just write down as much as you know about how an airplane works. Unless you have been studying about airplanes, engineering, whatever that might involve, you're not going to be able to write anything, right? Because you don't have the understanding. Just like me, I don't understand airplane. I won't be able to do anything. I'll just leave the paper blank probably, right? And that's where the problem is. You see, you have the tool, but you don't have the knowledge about airplanes, so you're not going to be able to write anything. And this is exact same thing in programming. You might have the best CSS library, jQuery library, whatever. You might have the best functions in a programming language, but they are useless unless you know what you're doing, right? Unless you know what the problem is and how to solve that problem, and you have dealt with that problem. So for example, if someone asks you to build an accounting software, you won't be able to do that unless you have studied accounting. You might be able to do a few things here and there, addition, subtraction, but what about currency conversion? What about taxation and all that? Will you be able to do that? Probably not, unless you've studied accounting, right? So that's an example. You have the pencil, that is a tool. You can find the best pencil, but if you don't understand about airplanes, you won't do literally anything, right? Exact same thing with the programming. So with that said, how do you find good projects to work on that are complicated enough? So there's two ways to this actually. And one way is to just stop programming for a while and then go learn something else. It could be a separate field. It could be finance. Yeah, you study finance and then you come back a month or two later and you then just apply everything that you learned in finance, right? And you just apply all the formulas and you build something useful using programming language. And you can pick any programming language at that time, but you just need to make sure that you understand finance. Or it can be anything. It could be health and fitness. understand health and fitness, go into the details, understand the complexity of that, because obviously it's not easy. If it's as simple, if you're going to build an application as simple as calories calculator, then yeah, that's pretty easy. But if you want to build a whole blown complicated application that's more than calculating calories, then you need understanding in health and fitness and biology, right? And yeah, so that's two separate things. Programming language, that's a tool, and then you have the complexity and the problem, the actual problem. That's one way. You go and learn something else, and then you come back to programming and you apply that knowledge. I guess the second way, and it's one of the easy ways, especially for beginners, I applied these techniques for a while as well, is to just go on Code Canyon and pick a theme. If you're a front-end developer, just pick a theme. Back-end developer, pick a script, whatever you like. Pick it, see if you like it, and if you like it, just interact with the script. Obviously, Code Canyon gives you ability to preview the sites or themes, whatever that is. Just make sure you understand, click around, see how things work. What happens when you click the button? What happens when you click on an input? Does it send a request to the backend? What does it do? Just make sure you understand the site. Make sure you understand the bigger picture, and then on a piece of paper, write everything down. What does the site do? What does each button do? How is the data sent to the backend? Just general things, but make sure it's functional specific. What each thing does, what it should do as well. And once you're done, then just start building an application. Just build something similar, right? And it's okay to kind of give up in the beginning, and it will happen. Just pick some other application if that does happen. But that's the second way to learn things. Pick an existing application, understand how it works, and then build the exact same thing. And once you build the exact same thing, you can definitely put that on your portfolio, because you have built that yourself. A lot of the application on the Code Canyon are similar to each other, so it's not a problem. You can go ahead, pick a theme, pick an application, understand it, and build it yourself, and put it in your portfolio. This way, you have spent a couple of weeks, you have spent some time, and as soon as you put that on your portfolio, it's gonna just add so much weight to your portfolio compared to people who are building sites that look like they were built in 90s, right? They spend 5 hours on each site and they think they have solid portfolio. Well, that's not enough if you're applying for a junior job. Maybe that's enough for an apprentice, but not a junior job where you're going to get paid, right? So make sure your portfolio is strong. Make sure you use these two ways, or just one, or a combination, whatever. If you're a beginner, I would suggest the second way, to just go ahead and pick someone else's site and rebuild that site. If you have solid portfolio, you're in a good position. I hope this video has been helpful. Thanks.